Today I'm going to go over the switch scanning and features of iOS 7 under the accessibility options on an iPad. iOS 7 is the first version of the iOS to actually include a switch option. In previous versions you could do it, but it was a little tricky to set up. To get to the accessibility options, we go into Settings, choose General, and here is where we can choose Accessibility. As we can see, they have selections for vision, hearing, learning, and physical and motor. As we see, switch control is under physical and motor. When I heard about the camera head switch feature, I was very excited to test it out. But it sounds much better than it actually is, unfortunately. To set this up, we go under Switches, Add Switch, and I want to choose Camera for the first thing that I'm going over, and I want to choose Left Head Movement. We have to choose an action for the switch. I'm going to leave it on the default, which is Scanning Menu. But as we can see, we have many different options that we can choose from. My first observation was the sub-menu that comes up when you select an app. This is the scanning menu, which is a little confusing at first. But once you get familiar with it, it's very useful. It has a set of 6 buttons to choose from, like Tap, Home, and Scroll. The first thing I found annoying was the camera would lose the connection with my face often, and I would have trouble getting it to recognize my face again. I also ran into the problem of opening an app when I didn't mean to. Another big drawback with the head scanning feature is that the iPad has to be in the portrait position. So you can't use some AAC apps, such as Gromich Company's Lamp app. Another big problem I ran into was when I tried using the front-facing camera to take a picture, the head switch feature would quit altogether, and it had to be reset. I also tried the 2 different head movement sensitivity settings. I found the high sensitivity setting was very difficult to use. One thing that I did like about this feature was you can control the scanning speed. Now I'm going to talk about using the Tecla Shield with an external switch. To set this up, we need to go into Settings, General, Accessibility, Switch Control, and then Switches. I'm going to delete the camera switch, just to make things easier. We do this by hitting Edit, Delete, and Done. Now we want to add a switch and we want to choose External Switch. To get it to pick it up, I have to click it once. And for now I'm going to leave the action as Tap. And hit the Home button. In this review I'm using the first generation of the Tecla Shield. There's one really big drawback with this generation of Tecla: it requires an external power source. That source can be an AC adapter or an USB port, thus making not it very portable. If a person had a laptop, you could power it through that, but not everyone has access to a wide variety of technology, especially people with disabilities. The newer Tekla has its own rechargeable battery. Another nice thing about the newer one is that it's cross-platform. Cross-platform means you can use it with different kinds of devices, like an iPad or a Galaxy tablet. Anyway, I like how the Tekla works. It's compatible with all apps. But using it with an AC app is really slow, just like any scanning. But, for just playing around on iPad, this makes it possible for someone with a disability to do so. Like using the camera. Next I tried the full screen as a switch feature. This sounds much cooler than it actually is. To set this up, we need to go into Settings, General, Accessibility, Switch Control and then Switches. This time I won't worry about deleting the Tekla. So we want to add switch and we want to choose full screen. And for now I'm going to leave the action as tap. And hit the home button. At first I set the switch function as tap. I quickly learned I couldn't do anything but open apps and follow links within the app. I had no way of going home, scrolling and stuff. By accident, I got on a web page where almost every word was a single element on the page, so there I was stuck on a page, while it went through useless text. I also tried using the camera. While I was using these settings, as soon as I went into the camera, the feature was disabled. Next I tried changing the function of the switch to open the scanning menu, which I mentioned earlier in this video. Sounds like a smart idea, right? Well, how do I tap when I have the function of the switch setting set to open the scanning menu? All that it did when I tried to select any buttons within the scanning menu was it took me home. In my opinion, the best switch access method is the external switch using the Tekla, so I'm going to use this method to show some other options that we can customize to meet an individual's needs. The next thing I tried was the group item option. We get to this by going into Settings, General, Switch Control and go down and there it is. I didn't like this option at all. It does make it faster to get to the item that you want, which is nice. But the scanning menu hardly comes up when you select an item. This making it hard to go home, or even to go to a different section of the app that you are in. In the camera, I was unable to switch from photo to video. The next thing I tried hooking up a second external switch, just to find out you can't do this. The Tekla has two switch ports, but the iPad sees it as the same source. So it gives a message of, this source is already in use. And that completes this video. Thank you for watching.